This is the story of Game On, where the community members, private sector, NGOs and government pull together to conserve our natural resources and to benefit out of it.
So Namibia, with regards to community conservation in general, is definitely the world leader. We are at the cutting edge.
In other words, Game On is about conservation in rural areas, helping rural communities to coexist with wildlife.
Dit was moeilike tye. Vir die eenvoudige rede dat die landskap was anders as waar ons vandaan oorspronklik gekom het. So hier was wilde diere. Ons het hier kom afklim met leeu's rondom die huise, olifante, nag uit en dag in het ons probleme gehad.
Today, Namibia, a small desert country, is a world leader in conservation because of their efforts to include the rural communities. The question is, what is a conservancy?
That simply means that conservancies, communities learn as rural communities how to manage their wildlife resources as a community, to look after their resources.
I was a poacher myself, especially before independence. Why? Because it was a situation of wildlife that belongs to them and we are not part of it. So we want people to have this exactly same feeling that they have towards their cows and goats and sheep. That you keep your sheep, you make sure that they expand, multiply in number as much as possible, but you also utilize it. You make a living out of it. That is a major reason why we want people to conserve their natural resources.
Because they are the owners of the resources. They are the people that live with the wildlife. They are the ones that bear the cost of living with wildlife. To be able to manage their conservancies well so that there is effective governance. Effective governance for me means that it's a governance that benefits the people. People's livelihoods are improved. People's livelihoods are being, for example, jobs have been created and people are able to earn income. Resources are being looked after well. People are able to account for their resources. And it's a whole program that promotes public-private partnership where government, where NGOs, where the private sector works together to hold hands together. And this has been a program. Why it has been so successful is because of this drive, where different partners have been coming to the table.
This takes us to Garth Owen Smith and his efforts to improve the living conditions of a small group of displaced people. They were forcefully removed from South Africa and resettled in the Bergsig area in the heart of the Namib Desert.
Dit was in die jare 1992, 94, het die ou mense van ons wat daar was, ook met die president, daardie tyd was dit Dr. Semenjoma, wat president was van die land, ons probleem gaan voorlê wat ons in hierdie area het. En hy was, ek moet sê, meer as gewillig. Hy het R5,000 gegee en gesê, begin met dit, iets wat julle kan maak. Met ook hierdie bystand het ons dan besluit oor 'n afgebakende area waar jy met hierdie conservancy kan begin. So hierdie afgebakende area was al die plase binne in daai grense, daai boere wat saamstem, saam kan besluite neem, kan dan hierdie conservancy vorm.
The Bergsig community and Garth Owen Smith were instrumental in establishing the first rural conservancy in Namibia. They called it the Torah Conservancy. But is it working? Twyfelfontein is a World Heritage Site because of the abundance of sand rock art in the area. Today it is a showcase of rural conservation.
My contracts behoort aan Namibia Country Lodges en ons is in 'n World Heritage Site en ons lê in die Twyfelfontein Conservancy. Die samewerking is natuurlik een van die besonderste aard hierso. Dan eens die geleentheid te gee vir mense wat minder bevoorreg was, die winste wat die lodge maak, dit te deel met die Conservancy.
To operate a successful lodge in a rural area, you need more than just a pretty setting and rock art. You need wildlife.
The government spends a lot of money in relocating wildlife from our national parks into the communal areas, into the communal conservancies, simply because we have realized that there is a lot of benefits from conservation. If the people get themselves involved into conservation, the number of wildlife will increase.
Dr. Mark Jago heads up the game capture unit of the Namibian government. He is responsible for the safe capturing and relocation of wild animals.
The country has a number of places, pockets, where there are well-producing, well-developing wildlife populations. And these are, if you will, they are the source, and they breed and they produce excessive numbers of animals. This allows us to then move them from the source to other parts of the country where there are fewer wildlife animals. There are many parts of the country where life is not necessarily easy, where there should be multiple forms of utilization of natural resources to allow people who live there to benefit from what is available in their country. What we are doing here is to take animals from those sources, moving them to other parts of the country where they are either few or non-existent, reintroducing them to those parts of the country, and then encouraging and providing opportunities for local people to benefit from this wildlife. We do move animals from one park to another for genetic manipulation, but in this particular case, what we're doing is we're actually providing them to the conservancies, to the communal land which is managed by the conservancies, to people who are living on that land, and then hopefully providing them with the opportunity to utilize them through tourism, through tracking, and through other systems.
It is early morning and we are on the Waterberg Plateau near Okakarara. Today the Game Capture Unit plans to capture eland and giraffe for relocation to a rural conservancy.
I'm trained as a veterinarian, a veterinary doctor. I have the role as heading up what they call the Game Capture Unit within the Ministry of Environment and Tourism under the Directorate of Scientific Services. As such, we are responsible for the catching and movement of game all over the country for a number of different reasons. And as well as being the vet in charge of the unit, I'm also responsible for a team of about 23 people, all of whom have different functions, different roles within the unit.
The game capture operation require a lot of proper planning. You have to plan what you are going to catch, where are you going to catch it, which transport do you need for the transportation of animals, and you have to have all this in place before you can think of the operation itself. So when it comes to the capture itself, you need a pilot, so you have to make sure the pilot and an experienced pilot is ready for the date set up for the operation. And before starting, you first fly the area, you check where a large numbers of animal concentrates. When you see this, then you think of what is the nearest thicket that you can use to camouflage your bomber. Yeah, because if you surprise animals, the first thing they do, they run to the nearest thicket. So you have to have your bomber in that thicket. First bend is where the animals are going to run to. Secondly, is where you have your bomber in such a way that they cannot see it from a distance. A bomber is a plastic bomber that we built with poles, cables, and plastic bomber in a V shape. So on this bomber, you have 3 or 4 curtains. The more curtains you have, the better, because we use the curtains to, firstly, to close the animals in and to narrow the gap behind them all the way until you get them in the loading funnel. And so we run the animal by narrowing the gap behind them all the way up to the loading site. I think we have to tell Franz to go slowly with them until, let's say, for 5 or 10 minutes. We do all this capture operation within the capture season, which starts toward the end of March up to the middle of September.
title in the game capture unit is veterinary technician. So essentially, I have a few jobs, a few responsibilities. I assist the vet, especially during capture operations. I assist with immobilization, sedation of the animals. We inject the animals before they leave, before they are transported, so that they are calm throughout the journey. It's a sedative that we give them. That's just so that they're calm, that they're not fighting, they're not struggling, or not too anxious, because obviously it is a very stressful thing for them. We put pipes on the horns as well, and that is for just for their safety, really, so that they don't hurt themselves, and that they don't when they're fighting, because often they're a couple packed in together in the same compartment, and it's just so that they don't hurt each other.
You've got 10 elands, 6 females, 4 males. They're leaving just now. They should be there in about 4 to 5 hours' time. Over the years, the capture and care of wild animals has developed significantly. It started about in the mid-50s, and since then we have used more and more a range of drugs, of chemicals, of medicines to control animals during the capture and care process. This has facilitated safe and atraumatic movement of animals from one point to another. The role of the vet is primarily one of ensuring that the drugs are used correctly, some of them are very dangerous, and that the right animals receive the right medicines to produce the right state of sedation that we need. On top of that, the unit has a number of reasons to put animals into captivity, short-term captivity, for the training of animals so they get used to transport systems, which allows us to move them long distances from different parts of the country to others, but also to other parts of the world.
Before you offload them, you also need to build what we call a release bomber. We also use poles and bomber plastic just to offload the animals in there, make them to settle down, regroup, and open them in such a way that they can leave that release bomber in one group. That's very important on the offloading side.
So I was quite fortunate as a technical advisor through the Millennium Challenge account of Namibia to support the reintroduction of giraffe into the Twyfelfontein area. This is the first time giraffe have been moved back into an area for about 100 years in Namibia. It's an amazing story. We moved in total 100 individuals that came from all over, but these giraffe were moved in with the support of the MET, Ministry of Environment and Tourism. They came from private land, and the communities, the conservancies came together to provide ongoing support once they're down in their area. What's really great to see is this population has boomed. There's little ones running around everywhere, and they have distributed across much of the area. They've gone north, they've gone south, they've gone a little bit east and west. And so they're repopulating areas from this introduction that they hadn't been there for more than 100 years.
We have looked at rural communities and government's input in conservation. But what is the part that the private sector plays? In the Hobatere area, between Kamanyap and Upuwo, 2 new developments are taking place.
Here at this area we have campsite, it's already consist. At the campsite have 8 campsites. We have a view deck to the water hole where the animals drink. And we built also a lodge here at the area with 20 units and guest restaurant, swimming pool, bars and so on.
Palembach Lodge in the Tora Conservancy is improving its facilities to make your stay there even more enjoyable.
The lodge have been taken over by the new operators, and at the moment we're doing a major renovations on the lodge because we get funds from the Millennium Challenge on behalf of the 3 conservancies, which is about 10 million, with 10 million Namibian dollar. And the operators that we have is the Namibian operator. He's from Namibia. He's born in Namibia, he's grown up in Namibia. He's a local operator.
In the mid-1980s, Garth Owen Smith was also responsible for incorporating this cattle ranch into the Tora Conservancy.
As ek vat Palembach konsessie, dan is dit 'n area wat totaal en al bewaring. Daar word geen boerderyaktiwiteite toegelaat nie. Ons het dit totaal en al vir toerisme uitgesluit. Geen jag word daar binne ook toegelaat nie.
The partners do not only build lodges and create jobs for the local communities, they also supply training and skills development.
And also it will be a job creation for our rural communities. I know many areas where we have got communal conservancies, the scarcity of job in those areas is very, very low. So both the assist us as the government to conserve our natural resources, and they benefit out of it economically, they are being uplifted.
Ons verstaan baie mekaar met die conservancy. Is die conservancy wat wil hê ons moet werk kry en daar moet mense ook van die conservancy opleidings kry en dan gaan ons vorentoe met baie experience voor.
We have quite a lot of plans with the lodge. After we finish building, we will do lots of trainings, especially like service training, guiding and stuff like that. And we will also get most of the locals, communities also involved to be taking part of these trainings. In futures, maybe we might also use them, or they can, after they're done with the trainings, they can go and find some other jobs or somewhere else.
Dan met die conservancies weer eens die geleentheid te gee vir mense wat minder bevoorreg was, wat nou die kans het om 'n werk te hê, te kan leer hulle self op te werk van onder af boontoe.
En hulle wil hê die mense, damara mense moet ook gelukkig werk by hulle se area, by hulle se conservancy area. Moet hulle ook gelukkig werk.
Conservation is like a traditional 3-legged pot. It can only succeed if it stands on all 3 its legs. Local communities, government, and the private sector must work together as equal partners.
So ons moet eintlik sê ons het hierdie plan het ons help skryf vir die regering om 'n conservancy binne kommunale grond te plaas.
Anything to do with conservation is about people. And by linking all the partners together, by working with them individually, we are only going to succeed through this method.
Met hierdie plan het ons dan gesien, as ons hierdie diere wat ons so verlies te gee, kan aanwend om weer daaruit voordele te kry, dan sal dit vir ons gemeenskap 'n beter toekoms beplan.
The sun is setting on conservation driven solely by governments. But in Namibia, the sun is rising.